Hello, everybody. Welcome to series number 6 of Music Meets. And today we have with us mental coach, right? Donata, performance coach. Donata, and she's a friend from music college as well, and she's gone into this wonderful side of helping people. Donata, would you like to introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Mitali, for inviting me here. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. So I'm a pianist, a piano teacher, and performance coach. And in 2020, during this whole pandemic, I started Mental Skills Lab, which is a performance coaching agency, and I help performers set and achieve their goals. And those goals can be all kinds of goals, starting from well-being, their self-belief, their performance anxiety, stress management, any other topics. So that's mainly what I do. I work with musicians and not only musicians, other creative people. So yeah, that's the main things that I do these days.
That's amazing. It's an amazing line to have taken up. Did something inspire you to go down this path? Because I mean, you're a very successful performer, you know.
Well, absolutely. Well, to be honest, I was interested in performance psychology. Um, I've been interested in it for a long time. Even when I was still at school, I was already doing lots of competitions, lots of performances. I was practicing a lot. Um, and I got introduced to sports psychology back then. And that's when I realized that, oh, this is something that I need in my life. This is something that I need to use in my life. This is something that can help me to become a better performer. And then later I started reading books about performance psychology. And after finishing my bachelor's in piano performance, where we studied together at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, then I moved down to London to study performance science at the Royal College of Music. And this is where I learned more about research. I also did my own study about mental toughness in music students. And after finishing those studies, I just really wanted to share this knowledge with others because I felt like it would be a shame to just leave it there and just use it for myself, because it has helped me tremendously. And I really believe that other people, other performers can benefit from this knowledge too, and it can help them overcome various obstacles in their lives. Yeah, that's how this mental skills lab was born. And yeah, that's what mainly inspired me, I think.
That's wonderful. That's really fantastic. So, what are the general causes of stage anxiety have you found in performers, the ones you've coached?
Mhm. Well, performance anxiety, or more specifically, music performance anxiety, that's how they call it in the research. It's quite a complex phenomenon, and depending on there can be different causes for different people, obviously, because we're all so complex, we're all so different. But one thing that's quite interesting is that it's understood as a subtype of social anxiety, for example, and there can be um, an interaction of different factors, our thoughts and our emotions, our feelings. And when all of these come together, that's when we might experience performance anxiety. So, for some people, it can be just stress about performing in front of others, feeling like you're judged by others, or feeling that uncertainty when you go on stage and you don't know really what is going to happen, or just feeling out of control. Also, your past experiences. If you've had some unfortunate experiences on stage, this might play a role in the future, and it might make you experience it a little bit more in the future. So everyone is really different, and it depends on people. But usually I say that everything starts with your thinking. So if your thoughts are not helpful, if your self-talk is not helpful, then you're much more likely to experience performance anxiety. So that's something that we usually work on during coaching.
Right. So this whole thing about self-talk, and I think any performer will safely say at some point that they've really been awful to themselves. Like you wouldn't find yourself speaking like that to somebody else. It would be you would be considered a horrible person if you did that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So it's funny that we end up treating ourselves that way, and we think it's okay to do that. You know. Um,
Absolutely.
so
I
I also yeah. Sorry, please continue.
I often say to people that um, talk to yourself in the way that you would talk to your best friend, because you know we are the closest person that we're the closest that anyone will ever get to us. So it's very important to talk to ourselves in a kind way, in a way that is actually helpful. So if you wouldn't talk like this to your best friend, then most probably you don't want to talk like this to yourself either.
Right. How much do you think the mind actually plays into this? So, like this whole thing with self-talk and treating yourself well, how much does it really affect a performance, do you think? And, from your own experiences as well.
Well, in general, um, music performance is not just physical, is it? There are lots of physical aspects to it, and of course we have to be feeling physically well and we have to be healthy to perform well.
Yes.
But mind plays such an important role, and if we're not controlling our mind well, then why do we expect our performances to go well? Because the mind is the one that leads our body. The mind is the one that gives the tasks to our hands, our fingers, all other bodily functions. So mind plays a very, very important role, and I think that training it is extremely important, because very often that can be the game changer, and changing the way we talk to ourselves, or training ourselves through visualization, for example. It can really help to change the situation. And for example, when I coach people, I recently started using ACT, which is acceptance and commitment training, and this is a proven tool that we can use for performance anxiety. And it all starts with accepting um, the fact that it might happen, accepting the fact that something might go wrong, accepting that this is how you might feel, accepting that your hands might get shaky, and all those things. So it all starts with your mind and acceptance, because once we accept it, then it's much easier to find various ways to actually deal with it.
Right. And it's funny that you say that because I've actually had a similar journey, but there was and for me, a lot of these lessons I learned through my meditation, but then I applied them into my piano playing. But there was nobody in on the scene who actually told me about just accept it. Nobody within the industry. Everybody tried to help me in their own way, but the particular word, that acceptance of what is happening, and I had to find it out the hard way. But for all our viewers today, there are people like Donata in the world. You don't need to find it out the hard way. If you're struggling, please approach the right person and talk about it. There is nothing holding you back doing that, and I think you should do it. In fact,
Absolutely.
that leads me to
Yeah.
the next question, Donata, which is about what are your thoughts about the fact that I personally, from my experience, I feel mental training is lacking generally in traditional music education from what I've seen.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is true?
Well, I think it really depends on the institution, because I cannot speak for all the institutions. I can only speak about the places that I've studied at. But in general, and also the fact that people come to do personal coaching, that shows that this is something that they need. And I think that in general, from what I've seen, there should be more training at the universities, at colleges, at conservatoires. Well, for example, when I did my piano performance degree, we did have some lectures about stage fright, other topics that were related to that as well. But I think it's not enough because, for example, when we train something physically, when we want to get in good shape, we don't assume that things will change in just one session. Or that someone will talk to us about, how to do this physical exercise, and then we'll go and do it forever, and then our lives are changed. We go and train, and we go and see our coaches all the time just to check our progress and all those kind of things. But somehow with those mental skills and mental training, we sometimes assume that it's enough to just learn about it and then we can go out and apply it. But it's something that requires work. It's something that requires daily practice and deliberate practice. And that's why I think at least the institutions that I studied in, which were amazing institutions, and I'm so grateful that I got to study there. And I've been giving so much when I studied there. But I think that little by little, we'll start seeing more and more of those topics in these institutions, because I think everyone starts to understand that this is something that's very useful, and it's not enough to talk about it, once a year, twice a year, even 3 times a year. It's not enough. We need to get this into our daily practice, and if it can become our way of leading our careers, and using more of our minds and mental skills, mental training, then I think we can start seeing more progress as well.
I definitely agree. I think, actually speaking, I can attest that at least one of the institutes that we've both been at have been incredibly helpful and very, very friendly. And possibly if I didn't have the support of my colleagues and my teachers the way I did, because I really suffered from performing. I really suffered. To the point where I was shaking and all of that. You said, everything, nothing works basically on stage the way you want it to. But if I didn't have the support I did from my teachers and my colleagues in music college, I wouldn't have come as far as I did. So I think people are aware, of the need for this. But somehow I think the facility hasn't yet come into the system, But it's good to see that I think more and more people are becoming aware that this is something that needs professional tackling. It's not something that is, you learn overnight, like you said.
And I think people are becoming more open to those ideas as well. But, trying to change any field can be hard. Bringing in some new ideas to any field can be hard. And especially in classical music, traditions are so deep. That bringing in something new, changing something, or not necessarily changing, actually it's not really changing, it's just about trying something new on top of what we already have. It can take time, but I believe that things are changing little by little, and there are so many institutions that are doing really well. There are institutions who actually have performance psychologists working for them. And I believe that things are changing little by little, and we're definitely going in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, and it's positive to see that people are also talking more about their issues, I think, because nobody is alone in this. There's so many people who suffer from this. It's like a normal thing. It's like a cold. Everybody has it. You just need the proper medication. So how do you think, according to you, what steps can be taken to incorporate this more in institutions or in teaching, even, one-on-one teaching? Because little kids have problems performing, but they're not able to articulate, they can't say that I'm scared because of this, and they don't know what's happening to them. So I think especially teachers of young children need to be aware of how to handle this and need some kind of training. What are your thoughts on how this can be,
Yeah, I totally agree that that's probably, teachers are probably the most important people for so many musicians, because so many of us see them as you know, someone like even a hero to us who plays so well, and we really want to follow their path. So I think one of the most important things teachers can do is to be open for discussion with your students, and to listen to your students, to even if this takes extra time or takes some time of the lesson, it sometimes can be more beneficial to talk and to go through those experiences, share your own experiences with them. And it can be more beneficial than actually spending this whole lesson just playing. Because I think if we can help students feel that it's absolutely normal, and this is something I have experienced as well, and so many other people experience this. If we can help them feel that this is normal, it's easier than for them to accept it, to accept that, okay, so others are going through this too, then that seems it's fine. I'm not alone, and if I'm not alone, then maybe I can get some more help somewhere. And I think that teacher, of course, if the talking to a teacher and finding various solutions together with a teacher can help, and helps finding some strategies, then that's great. But then also I think it's important that various institutions, especially higher education institutions, that they need to have a connection with someone who is trained to do this kind of thing, and someone who has knowledge, who knows about research in this field, and someone who those students can actually go to and talk to if they need, just confidentially, without anyone knowing. So I think if we can give easier access to students, and also maybe refer them to someone who we know who can help them with that, then those could be great steps. And it doesn't matter if the first person we go to can't really help us, because as long as we decide to make a step, to take that first step and to look for help, that can already change the situation, because then we start feeling like I'm in control. I am doing something about the situation. I'm not just sitting and letting this anxiety ruin my life. I think it's really important to gain this feeling of control by going and doing something.
Absolutely. And I think what do you say, in addition to that, if that starts happening, the younger generation are going to be more thoughtful. And you're going to start creating a society of musicians which are accepting. And once that happens, then automatically the general anxiety levels are going to fall, because everybody around you is, developing that mindset. So goes to show, as a collective whole, we can really make a big difference if a lot of people, even if you don't have anxiety, I think it's important to inform yourself about how to handle people who do, because you're going to be in touch with them, and
Absolutely, it's so important to talk about it. And I think that, let's say, if we talk about those institutions giving some more training to students and things like that, it's not just those students who have performance anxiety that will benefit from it. Various strategies and tools that we can talk about with students, they can help even the other ones who maybe don't experience anxiety, or not as much, because those are general tools that can help you improve your career and your performance. It's not just about eliminating performance anxiety. Is how we see our careers in general, how we see performing, how do you accept the things that happen to us, and things like that. So I think anyone can benefit from it, regardless if they experience anxiety or not.